You mentioned there was an artistry and a science.
Right.
Tell me about the science of presentations.
I think today the science of presentation focuses a lot on how you position a message because it draws from different fields, from interpersonal psychology, from linguistics, from NLP. And what you do is you use all these established rules on how to construct language and about how people perceive communication to really build a message, wrap it around a story, wrap it around an experience, and position it inside the mind of the audience. And that requires a lot of science.
Did you study neuroscience or cognitive psychology?
Well, not really. I think, see, all of what I've gathered so far is just by trial and error. And I've done a lot of reading on my own. I've been coached by some of the best speakers in the world. And some of these things are intuitive. You don't need to go into a massive deal of research to figure out most of these rules. And some of these rules are self-evident. And it's about discovering what rules work best with your style. And you know that's something that can hit home. A perfect example would be someone like Tony Robbins. Uses big, huge body language gestures, and it works for him because he guys are like 6 foot, right? 6 or 7 footer. But you know, if you're someone with a shorter physique, it might not work as well as him. So you have to figure out what works for you with your style and create the impact that you want.
You had an added burden that most of the people in the United States would never be able to even appreciate. You come from Sri Lanka, English isn't your native language, and you're competing in English at a world championship level.
Yeah, I think it was added challenge, and I think one of the things that I really relished is really overcoming that challenge. And what it means is, I think when you define yourself as an international speaker, what you need to be is identity neutral. And when you get on stage, people should know where you come from. And in that way, you can relate to everybody. And especially when you talk internationally at international conference, you got people from 120 different countries. And if each person can, in an unbiased way, accept you as one of their own, then you become an international speaker. So my journey from losing my Sri Lankan accent to growing into more of an international speaker, which means a more neutral identity and an accent, has allowed me to connect with a larger audience basically.
When the stakes are really high and you have to nail a presentation, what in those 10 years of studying competition would you do differently now?
I think finding powerful stories, simple but inspirational stories, is one of the toughest things speakers have to do. Complicated stories don't sell. Fluffed up stories don't sell. What really matters is authentic stories which are simple, relevant, timely, and people can believe it. And I think finding those stories is 60% of the battle. 40% of the battle is putting that into a speech. The right syntax, the right pausing, the right delivery. And once you wrap these two together, you've pretty much done the whole thing. You know?
How important is trust?
I think trust is very important, and showing vulnerability is a very important way to build trust. It's not so important to really talk about how great you are on stage. I think it's very important to talk about how human you are on stage. The mistakes you've made, the failures, the trials and tribulations you've gone through. And what happens is when you show that level of vulnerability as a speaker, you establish trust. People who don't show vulnerability don't establish trust. And it's a very important part of public speaking and presentations.
When we first met, you said that the night before the World Championship of Public Speaking, you cut your speech by 30%.
Right, yeah. By 3 minutes, yeah.
So you would not be able to have memorized your speech. This was something that, it's a new speech in a way.
Not really. I think I had the 10 minutes locked down. I knew word for word what I needed to do because I've been doing it for 2 years. What I did was I asked myself, how could I do the first 3 minutes differently? How could I shave off what's unnecessary? So I completely dropped off 2 minutes of my speech, which I didn't have to say anything about. And you'd be surprised at how unnecessary, what unnecessary weight you have on your speech. It's the nth level of editing. and then I just rephrased another minute to bring it down some more. So it wasn't a completely new speech, but it was more refined. And I think you are able to do that because of that moment. I think every speaker has their moment. Some speakers have that moment before the contest, some speakers have it during, some speakers have it just before. And I think I had my moment just before. Everything just came together. I knew exactly what I needed to do to make sure that this fits in the format that I wanted to fit in. And it all clicked.
When you had to compete, you saw
Right.
the presentations of other
Right, yeah,
contestants.
yeah.
What, in competition,
Right.
when the stakes are high,
Right.
what was the most common mistake that you saw speakers
I think
do?
probably there are two types of speakers. I don't know whether it's a mistake, but it's more for me a preference. The first type of speakers are speakers who make their speech about the audience. That's their center of attention. You do everything for the audience. You talk about a message they want to hear, and you genuinely want to add value to their lives. Then you have competitors who want to win a contest, and predominantly they talk about themselves in a way that they become the center of their whole speech and completely disengage the audience. So my preference is the first style, where everything you do is about the audience and you genuinely are interested in adding value. Winning the contest or not is, it's a secondary thing, because it's a privilege to be on the World Championship stage. To talk in front of 5,000 people from 120 different countries, it's an opportunity that people would normally never have in their lifetime. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And what you do with those 7 minutes tell a lot about your character, tells a lot about your story, tells a lot about your caliber, how you use that opportunity. And it's always graceful to see men and women use those 7 minutes to change the lives of other people.
You beat 30,000 contestants from over 100 countries in the world.
120.
120 countries in the world.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us. I very much appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. Take care.
That's it.